Hello everyone and happy Halloween. I've mentioned this in previous videos, so if you've seen it there then you know, but Halloween and October is my favorite holiday and month. So I am really excited to be starting this new little thing where I'm gonna try out doing some special effects makeup and bring you some creative Halloween looks that hopefully nobody has done before, or it's like a version that somebody hasn't ever done before. So I'm really excited for that. And we're just gonna jump right into it basically. But first, before we get started, we have to get comfortable. But more so than getting comfortable, we have to get Halloweeny. Ta-da! I am wearing my Halloween leggings for this video in celebration of October beginning. Now, it's not the first day of October for you when I'm releasing this video, but it's the first day of October for me, so this is how I'm celebrating. Getting into the video. So I have bought some things that are pretty standard for doing FX makeup. So I have some liquid latex. I'm going to use cotton balls as my method for today rather than any of the other things. It's my first time trying this, so I wanted to start easier, and I thought that that might be the most affordable, easier option. I just picked up all of the things that I'm going to use today from Spirit Halloween, and then I'll have makeup from beforehand. So hopefully this is the most affordable option. And on all of the decorations that I spent for this look today and some of the looks that I'm going to be doing later in the month, I only spent $40 at Spirit Halloween, so I definitely think that this could be an option for people who are on a budget or worried about spending money. So we're just gonna get started. I'm gonna do a liquid latex test on my wrist first so that I can make sure that I'm not allergic to it, because I know it's a pretty common allergy. I don't think that I am. I'm not really allergic to anything, but I just wanted to make sure before I put it on my face because that would be really uncomfortable to wear around all the time. So we're gonna go ahead and do that, and then I'll be back with starting on the look. Okay, so I did the patch test. It's on my arm. You can't really tell very much because it looks it's clear. I don't seem to have any allergies, and so I'm just gonna peel this right off right now. And then I'm starting with a bare face because I just know that you're supposed to put this stuff on with a bare face, I'm pretty sure, as far as I understand from all the things that I've learned from like the various tutorials that I've watched and stuff. And also, like, I'm no stranger to having my bare face on the internet. So the scariest thing that you're gonna see in this video will probably be this. Sorry. So as you could read from the title, we're gonna be doing a rotting zombie look. I tried to find this on the internet and all over YouTube, and I couldn't find one like I was thinking of how I wanted to do it. So hopefully this will be something new that's being brought to the table. So to start off, you can take the regular cotton balls that you have and you're just gonna unroll them like this, and this is how we're gonna make those like flesh wounds that we're gonna do. But first you're gonna start with liquid latex and your sponge. So I did the patch test earlier, and I am not allergic to it, so that means that we can proceed. So first you're just gonna dip your sponge into liquid latex, and you're gonna put it all over your face. So part of me wants to have like a rotting area that just is kind of like fleshy, like hanging down, and I do want to have some older cuts. One thing I did learn was that on places where you are going to talk a lot, you don't want to try and put things there because that will interfere with like how the latex will adhere to your skin and do all that kind of stuff. So I will probably just work and let the voiceover talk as I go.
So this is voiceover that's going on right now. So what's happening is I'm just putting the liquid latex onto my face, and I am starting with a thin layer to begin. I'm going to stack that on top of itself to make it thicker so that we can poke holes into it and create that like rotting fleshy sort of look. So that's all that you're seeing right now is me just putting those layers on, letting it dry, and then putting more layers on, and that's basically all that I do for that side of my face. So that's the end result of the one side of my face with just piles of liquid latex on. Next, what we're going to start doing is laying down some liquid latex, and I'm going to run it from my nose across the side of my face to look like a giant gash. So you're just going to put that liquid latex down first, and then you're going to stick your cotton to it then place liquid latex on top of it to kind of mat it down and give it that skin fleshy sort of texture. One mistake that I made that you don't want to make is to make sure that you're blending the liquid latex out from the wound that you're creating on the cotton so that it sticks down better. And also you want to flatten it a little bit more because mine did stick up quite a bit. And we want to make it as smooth as possible so that it's not as lumpy and then it's harder to place your makeup in and stuff like that. So that's one mistake that I made that hopefully you won't make. So after you lay down your first cotton strip, you're going to then repeat the same type of process. You're going to put that liquid latex down right next to it to create that wound opening and look like your skin has been split by raising up the two areas of cotton. So that's just what I'm doing right now. I'm laying down the liquid latex first, then I'll put the cotton, and then I'm going to mat down the cotton with the liquid latex on top of it, and that'll create that opening. Another alternative is to try and like rip open the cotton with the liquid latex on. I did try that, which is what you saw at the end of the clip, and it wasn't really working for me, so I just decided to put another piece of cotton and latex down right next to it to create that wound. So what you're seeing now is I laid down a little patch of liquid latex and then was rolling up pieces of cotton to stick onto the liquid latex. They're similar to what we did for the wound, but instead of laying it down flat, I just wanted to poke it up. Kind of wanted to make it look like I had like sores there or like some weird pussy kind of nasty stuff. I hadn't seen anybody do this before, so I kind of just decided to try it on my own. I did find that when I put the liquid latex on top of the cotton, it didn't stick up like as round as I had hoped. So that's something that I'm still probably going to experiment with a little bit, but that's just the example of what I did here. And it did end up working out in the end because it was bumpy. I just had to add a little bit more cotton on top to make it look a little bit more round. Similar to the wound, you're going to put the latex first to stick the cotton to your face and then put the latex on top of the cotton to make it look more flesh textured and like stick better and not be like so cottony. Also, a mistake that I made here that hopefully you won't make is that I didn't blend out the edges, and so it did start to peel up a little bit. Granted, I was talking with my forehead and like, it was moving, so that didn't help, but make sure you always blend outward to blend into your skin so that the latex doesn't peel up that way. So what you see me doing now is I'm taking a Laura Mercier clear setting powder to put all over the places that I put latex on my face. This is to help make it less shiny, mattify it, make it look more like skin texture rather than latex texture. This helps cover up any of the shiny and helps make it lock in to make it look like it's part of your face rather than a piece of FX. So what I'm doing now is I was taking the end of one of my makeup brushes and I was trying to poke holes into the latex on my face so that I could make it look like the skin was kind of rotting and peeling up and stuff like that. I did end up having a little bit of trouble with this, and I think it was just because I was using a dull makeup brush to try and do this, but I felt like the liquid latex was peeling up off of my skin. I know lots of people will use like makeup spatulas specifically for this that I know has a sharp end, probably to poke into that latex or, whatever type of wax or clay that they're using to sculpt their prosthetics to give it that nice cut so that it doesn't peel up this way. I later switched to tweezers, but I didn't find that it was helping me that much. So again, this is something I need to experiment with a little bit more, but I would suggest maybe using a sharper rather than duller tip on when you are peeling up the prosthetics and doing stuff like this with the liquid latex. And this was me just updating and showing more up closely how it was looking. So what I'm doing here is I was applying a white water-based face paint on first. I wanted to kind of give that like ghostly pale undertone that like a corpse would have after, not being frozen or anything for a while. So I do this for a little while and I covered up my neck as well just to make that blended. And then after I followed with a gray, this ended up making me a little bit bluish, so I did end up putting some of my regular makeup powder on top that's mattifying just to give it a little bit more patchy, fleshy color. I didn't quite get this right even in the end, and it was really hard to tell. So I definitely think that making the gray more white than dark is probably the best way to go to give it that ghostly, deathly kind of look. And and making it really thin. So using a lot of water is the best way to accomplish this, and how I would do it next time. So to give my eyes that dead sunken in look, I took brown eyeshadow and just placed it all where my dark circles already exist. So basically all just around under my eyes. After I did brown, I followed it with a little bit of red and purple to make it look a little bit more like deathly and swollen and like just kind of miserable all around. Later, when I decided that I wanted to make more an emphasis on like an infection or like really deathly looking, I also did end up adding some yellow and some green. So what I'm doing here is I'm adding some veins to my forehead. I put one above my lip and one near my eye, just to make it really look like the skin was thin and like just gross, you know, gross is basically what we're going for. To do this, I took like a really, really, really light blue, almost like a light azure teal kind of blue. And I took a really tiny brush and I just dabbed a little bit on the end and would trace it in the kind of curvy direction that I wanted it. And I did add purple after because veins are kind of a bluish purplish, but again, very, very light. And I didn't add it everywhere, just on places that I wanted to place a little bit more emphasis on like making it darker. So what I'm doing here is similar to how to make my eyes look sunken in. I really wanted to make that death, like bloody pooling around the bottom of my nostrils and around the corner of my mouth. So what I did is I, again, used a brown, a purple, and a little bit of a red to make that look like it was pooling and kind of, you know, rotting and gross. Right after this is when I started putting red eyeshadow into the areas where I wanted my cuts to be. Now, earlier, I know that I decided not to put foundation on my latex, but I would actually recommend that you do this even if you use face paint over, because you can see here how my latex really stands out as being different than the rest of my skin color. So I would highly recommend putting foundation on. But anyway, I color in red in the places that are going to be cuts or sores or anything like that. So that was really on the like forehead cheek piece and then also the place on my underneath my eye. But since the one on my forehead I wanted to be like an infection type of thing, I didn't put red there, and instead I color it with green, yellow, and just an infection looking color. So what you see here is me just placing that yellow and green sickly looking base around my cuts. So for the sores that are on the side of my face, I put it underneath and around the entire cut, which did end up taking up a lot of space, which is totally fine because we want it to look sickly. And I also end up putting it on the sores that are meant to be on my forehead, and I even do put a little bit on the gash that's in my face to make it look older. And this was my close-up update of how it was looking. So for this, I was mixing green and yellow eyeshadow and some petroleum jelly to make that chunky, oozy, like infection looking thing that I make come out of some of my wounds or be on top of my wounds and be coming out of my eyes and my mouth later. So here's me applying that greenish, oozy, grossy, nasty stuff all around my cuts. I mostly put it underneath as if it was seeping out. And then I did put some under my eye and around my mouth as if that infection was also coming out of other places that weren't just injuries. And then I also did put it on top in like a chunky, sort of gross way on top of the things that were meant to be sores on my forehead. At first I made more of a forest green. I didn't think that that looked very natural. So I ended up making more of like a sickly yellow green, and that's what I put on top later. So this is where I started applying scab blood. Now the Party City one is a lot different than what I think more experienced or professional FX artists would get. It was definitely not as scab looking and was very jelly-like, and it was also very red, not quite scabby looking. Also, I would be careful because I did put it under my nose and around my mouth, and then I did later add some coming out of my eye, and I think it did stain my face or irritate my face a little bit for a little while. It did go away pretty quickly, but just in case, I would maybe do a patch test before putting it on your face, which I definitely did not do and should have done, but now I know for next time. And maybe put like a layer of Vaseline or moisturizer underneath so that it's not going straight onto your skin, if that's Now to finish this look, all I did was take some chocolate syrup so that I could make it look like there was blood that had been dripping from my face, but maybe not as recently as making it look red. To make red blood, if you want to do it more fresh, you can use corn syrup, red food dye, and chocolate syrup.
Okay, well this is the final look. So I obviously did the little bit with the syrup right before this, which is why it's all over my face, but yeah, I mean, I hope you liked this video. I hope that this was helpful for you in some way. This was my first time, so if you have any tips, just let me know. I'd love to improve and to try this again someday with maybe some new updated things. And yeah, so just let me know below if you have any tips, if you liked this, if you didn't like this, and if you'll try this for Halloween. Obviously, you don't have to go quite as dramatic as I went, but I really wanted to nail in that solid look of dead person. I really feel bad for whoever this was. If this was a character in real life, this person got totally beaten up. Anyway, happy Halloween. I hope you enjoy Halloween month, and I will see you guys next time.